With that, we always start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so I invite you to join and face the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thanks for that. The next on the agenda is the consent of the agenda. Where in one vote, we will pass the items that are on the consent agenda and begin the meeting. And before we actually vote on that, I will go over the items that are on the consent. So if anybody wants any of those items off of the consent, just raise your hand and we'll be glad to take them off and have them be on the regular agenda. So with that said, somebody like to give us a stab at the consent agenda tonight?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay, all good?
Yep.
Okay, so right now what we have on the consent agenda is number 1, the city council meeting minutes of June 13th, 2 claims and bills, 3 annual appointment amendment, addition of budget committee resolution 7274, and 4 approval to hire a full-time officer. Anybody who want any of those items taken off the consent tonight? Seeing no objections, I have a motion. Did you second that?
I second.
Second. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes 3-0. Okay, next we have our presentation tonight by our Hennepin County Commissioner, Chris Latonis. I love the shirt, came prepared for the Orono Council meeting for sure.
I did. You know, the last time I was here a year ago, all of you were wearing, or I think most of you were wearing Hawaiian shirts, and I felt a little left out. So I wanted to make sure it was a year late that I didn't miss my opportunity, my one opportunity out of 16, probably at the 16th, to wear a Hawaiian shirt to a council
And
presentation.
we appreciate that.
Yeah, you bet. Well, good evening, everyone. Mayor Walsh, council, as my esteemed colleagues in local government, it's an honor to be here with you tonight in person as your Hennepin County Commissioner. Next slide. I'm not sure if he's trying. Thank you. I represent District 6. That's my hometown of Hopkins, Minnetonka, Northern Eden Prairie, Edina, and both communities around Lake Minnetonka, including the city of Orono. And I've served in the role for a little over a year. Local government's built on strong partnerships, and that's my main message here to you tonight, is I promise to do my part to ensure the partnership between Hennepin County and Orono stays strong for years to come. So tonight I just wanted to provide a brief update about some of what your county government has been up to in the 1 year since we were last together, and leave some time at the end for questions. I know Mayor Walsh and I have also been in contact about the property assessments, connection to the levy process will kick off in earnest in September. I've actually brought with me this evening our current county assessor, Jim Atchison, if you want to wave Jim. And our he's retiring, so our new county assessor, Josh Hoagland, who will be starting officially as of Friday. Is that correct? So they're both with us tonight. If there's any more specific questions beyond what I have the expertise to answer. If you want to go to the next slide, please. I just wanted to start this evening with a moment of remembrance and gratitude as we mark two years of living with COVID-19. Remembrance as we mourn the loss of 1 million Americans to this terrible disease, including 2,630 Hennepin County residents. And gratitude for all of those who have made it possible for us to get through a difficult couple of years. Frontline workers, healthcare heroes, our educators, and our local governments, including the city of Orono. I believe that together we have saved lives and seen residents through this storm. Over 74% of Hennepin County residents are now fully vaccinated, offering each of them better protection from the virus and putting us all on the path to normalcy. Our county public health team has administered over 70,000 doses through dozens of events in partnership with congregations, community organizations, and small businesses. Next slide, please. An organizer for one such event hosted at a congregation in Minnetonka put it this way: we are a faith community, and we knew we could make a difference by bringing the vaccine clinic here. Most of the time, members of our community don't have access or they don't feel comfortable. So we wanted to bring it here where they do feel comfortable. And I really think that's just a symbol of good government in action, building trust, reducing barriers. Next slide, please. As a nation, we have met this unprecedented time with some pretty significant federal investments, one-time money, entrusted to local governments to steward. This past year, Hennepin County received a one-time allocation of $246 million in federal funding through the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, and to ensure resident voices stay at the center of shaping these investments, our office convened listening sessions with District 6 mayors. Mayor Walsh was able to attend our listening session with our mayors, legislators, school leaders, community organizations, and small business owners. We also gathered hundreds of responses to an online survey. And the message that we heard from residents was loud and clear. They wanted us to balance short-term emergency pandemic response with smart, longer-term investments to build a better future, knowing, again, that these were one-time dollars and we wanted to put them to their highest and best use. Housing stability, public safety, and supporting small businesses rose to the top of that list. Next slide, please. Hennepin County's moved with urgency to address those priorities and many more that you can see here through some of our allocations, and I will spotlight our action on a few of these topics tonight, 3 of them. Spotlight 1, next slide, please. Housing stability. So our region right now across Hennepin County, as Minnesota's largest county, faces an intersecting crisis of homelessness and affordability that has been made worse by the pandemic. 1 in 3 households in Hennepin County are housing cost burdened, which means they pay more than 1/3 of their income on housing. Next slide, please. And this is the one that keeps me up at night as the chair of Hennepin County's HRA, that's our Housing and Redevelopment Authority. There are currently 73,000 extremely low-income households in Hennepin County, that's sort of at the poverty line, and fewer than 15,000 units affordable to them. It's a startling gap that directly corresponds to the visible rise that we see in homelessness encampments, for example, if you go downtown. Direct correlation. Since the start of the pandemic, Hennepin has assisted 5,800 households with more than $48 million in one-time emergency rental assistance dollars, including nearly $5.1 million to 650 households across District 6. And while these funds offered a lifeline to residents in crisis, it's not a sustainable or permanent solution. These are one-time dollars, and once they're gone, they're gone. They are now gone. We know we have to do more. Next slide. That's why with our ARPA dollars, Hennepin County is going big on long-term housing stability with a historic $91 million investment of those $246 million. As reported by the Star Tribune, this investment will, quote, boost the county's normal one-year spending by more than 60%, with a goal to help 1,000 homeless residents and create 2,000 new affordable housing units. And as part of that work, we are currently transitioning hotels that we acquired for COVID-19 isolation shelters with CARES Act dollars. Those were dollars given us by the previous administration, including the Metro Inn pictured here. And we're converting these hotels into long-term housing through our new single-room occupancy strategy to fill that critical gap between exits from homelessness and deeper affordability. Next slide, please. On top of that, through our annual HRA grants program last year, we invested an unprecedented $17.1 million, supporting 1,550 new affordable units, including several District 6 projects that you see highlighted here. And this is an annual program that any developers across our county, and including here in this community, if they want to include some levels of affordability, they can include these funds and apply for them. And our office is always happy to assist with that. Next slide, please. This is our second spotlight of the evening, public safety. As the vice chair of the Law, Safety, and Justice Committee for Hennepin County, this is one of my top priorities. In 2021, we approved Hennepin County Sheriff's Office request for 31 new deputies to fill gaps and serve in critical areas of need. We also approved $8.2 million to expand the North Metro Public Safety Training Facility in Maple Grove. When it is completed, it will be a world-class training space for sheriff's deputies and local law enforcement that will increase capacity and allow them to modernize some curriculum with some new technologies and best practices. Next slide. And in some of the work here that I'm actually most proud of across our county, we have expanded embedded social workers to 8 new suburban police departments, 7 of those 8 right here in District 6. That means now we have 22 social workers embedded in 23 departments, serving 35 cities countywide. And we are just getting started with this. Orono is a part of this most recent expansion in 2023, with your police department joining the coalition. And I just think it is a very promising partnership. I had a meeting with Chief Farniak about it, and other Lake area police department leaders, and I'm committed to ensuring it lives up to its full potential. Next slide, please. Our third and final spotlight of the evening, fully recovering from this pandemic means supporting our small businesses that really are the backbone of our community. We have provided nearly $70 million, that was both through CARES and ARPA, in grants to small businesses, especially those hit hardest by COVID-19, including 20 grants totaling over $200,000 to Orono small businesses and over $9.5 million to businesses across District 6. Next slide, please. We also established the Elevate Business Hennepin County in partnership with the Minneapolis Regional Chamber. It's a program that offers pro bono consulting and other resources to other small businesses, or to help small businesses recover from the pandemic and build for future growth. It includes up to 25 hours of one-on-one consultation with expert advisors on a lot of them, topics you can imagine: accounting, business planning, legal, marketing, web development, human resources. And interested residents can learn more at hennepin.us/elevate. And I have been making the rounds as well with all of the chambers here in the West Metro to make sure they're aware of this vital resource for small businesses here in Orono and elsewhere. Next slide. Last but not least, before turning things back over to you, Mayor Walsh, for your reference, our Public Works team wanted me to include a list of current and future county transportation projects that are slated here in Orono. And I won't go through all of these, but I wanted to personally extend my gratitude for the great collaboration between Hennepin and Orono that has made these improvements possible. Though I know they caused some heartburn in the short term. We got things like 2 bridges out, but these are generational investments, and they'll make sure that those bridges are usable for years to come. So with that, Mayor Walsh, I will turn things back over to you and the council for any questions or comments.
Okay, well, thanks, I appreciate that. I know we've had a long collaboration of road projects and all that kind of stuff, going back with Commissioner Callison and all the years we had those. We do have those 2 road projects right now, and I think it was a really good, we did have a few angst with people that are kind of in between those bridges and fire service, and I think between reaching out and all the stuff, all the information you did ahead of time with the fire chief, with the police chief, kind of helped alleviate all those issues. And I think you're right, once they're done, they're going to be done for a long time. So I think that's a great deal. I know one of the biggest concerns is the budget this year coming up, with all the increase in values, which is positive on one hand because people have obviously more money in their house. But I know we had talked a little bit about, depending on what you put in the budget or what your thoughts are in the budget, because obviously you have 7 people that are going to vote.
Yep.
And you're just one of those. What your thoughts are on the budget, because that directly correlates to then what the increase in the levy is, regardless of what the increase in the value of your house is. So I guess I'd throw that at you just to get a few of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mayor Walsh. And I really appreciated and benefited from our conversations on this. As part of the Minnesota statute, Hennepin County is required to assess the total value of property in Hennepin County on an annual basis and report that out to residents, and then that is the baseline or the basis against which Hennepin County and other local taxing jurisdictions, City of Orono, school districts, others use to set your levy and really determine, from a process standpoint, we like you basically say, hey, we collected X last year. We think in order to keep things running, we've got to collect X or Y percentage more, and then we take that from the total increased value of property. So, more to the point on the question of the levy process itself, we'll kick that off in earnest about the same time that you all do, I think in September, with setting the max levy and our budget hearings to follow that. If you go back 2 years, we set a 0 levy. That was sort of an anomaly. It's not something any local government can really afford to do given inflationary increases on FTEs and other costs. Last year, we set a 3.5% levy. That was the administrator's recommended levy in order to pay for our expenses. I did have some colleagues on the board that wanted to go as high as 5. I did not support that. I feel like holding the line at what sort of represents an inflationary increase for us in our budget, about 3.5, gets it about right, though I, like, anyone else that holds an election certificate, really has to wait until I see all of the information in front of me as presented by, staff and representatives and our community to make a prudential judgment. So I think it'd be irresponsible for me to commit right now exactly what I'm willing to set it at or what bright line I'm gonna set. I think that at least gives you some sense of how I think about that topic.
I know part of the quandary you're gonna have, as well as any other city or county, is if, let's say you increase your levy by, say, 3%, just as a round number. And next year, because of the high increase in property values this year, we've got a recession or a slowdown and the prices go down 10%. Now you gotta start cutting costs, because you don't have enough money coming in.
Well, so the way it works now, sort of what you're describing there, I think more accurately reflects what used to be the old mill rate system, which expired in, we did away with it in 1988, I think, under the Rudy Perpich administration.
But it still translates to the same thing,
Well, it translates,
generally speaking.
we don't set a tax rate, we set a tax levy. So a tax rate would be to say we want to collect X percent of the total value of property. Say we want to collect 3% of the total value of property. Property goes up 20%, we collect 3%, that's that much more. If it goes down 10%, that's that much less. With the max levy, that percentage we set is with reference to the amount of money we've collected this year. So if we were to set a 3.5% levy, for example, this year, in the face of what is roughly an 18% increase in property values across suburban residents in Hennepin County, that might, that's not going to translate into an 18% levy increase. But then the next year, if we set 3.5% again, that would be off of the total, that would be off the dollars would be sort of committed to raising. So there wouldn't, it doesn't go up dramatically, it doesn't go down dramatically, and that's one of the reasons we changed the system. When I say we, I mean Hennepin County, I mean the state of Minnesota, for all local taxing jurisdictions.
I understand, but the percentage can change if all of a sudden values go down. You may not call it a mill rate, but the percentage difference issue going on. So we'll just leave it at that. Matt, any questions for Chris?
Yeah, I just, my question was related to how your district compared in property tax increase assessments versus the other districts.
Yeah, so, I mean, this might be a good place for Jim or Josh to step in, but broadly speaking, let me start here. You all are invited on Wednesday night, if you'd like to participate, to a event that I'm hosting with our county administrator, our county assessor, and the gentleman who sets our budget and sort of works that out every year. Is coming Wednesday evening, and I can have my staff be behind that information. We're going to be going over that in detail, running some scenarios of, if property values went up X, what likely impacts that to have on, individual property taxes going up. Here in suburban Hennepin, broadly speaking, in aggregate, it's gone up about 18% in value. Again, that's not, we haven't done the taxes yet. That is compared to, some of the surrounding counties here. Wright County, I think, was 18%, Carver County was 20%. So in terms of assessed values, it's pretty comparable with a lot of the other jurisdictions out here. I think Orono is about 24.
So my question was more related to within Hennepin County. We as Orono saw 25%.
Yeah.
And I was just curious what the kind of min-max was of within the other districts as percentage. Like downtown Minneapolis, what did they see for an increase compared to Orono?
Yeah, great question, and this is precisely why I wanted to bring on.
He's talking about it.
I'm coming up, Jim, if you want to provide some more detail on this. No, you know it like back there.
Well, most of the time. Mr. Mayor, council members, Councilmember Johnson, Jim Atchison, County Assessor. All of our reports that we have are based on city and suburban versus Minneapolis, so I don't have one that just goes right to districts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And that we can get for you. In general, if you start in Minneapolis, the farther west and north you go, the higher the increase, the higher the value of the residential property, the higher the increase. So western Hennepin had higher increases than the inner core of Minneapolis. We're speaking single-family residentials. Bloomington increased more than Ridgefield. Edina increased more than East Bloomington and that type of thing. So it kind of, as you throw a pebble in a lake, think about throwing that in the city in the middle of Minneapolis. As that reverberates out across the county, those lines are higher increases as the farther you go out. But
So what did Minneapolis see?
Well, that I can tell you. One second here.
And you're speaking, Councilmember Johnson, specifically of Minneapolis residential, or?
Yes.
So overall, the city of Minneapolis had an increase of 6.9%. Residential, single-family residential is up about 8.6. Commercial is up apartments are up 7.3. Commercial is up about 4%.
And then, do you have that breakdown for,
Or no?
yeah,
Absolutely.
because we saw it all together, right, Ron? Which is basically the same.
I probably have the spreadsheet he's looking at, and then we can show you.
So for the city of Orono, single-family residential is up 21.9%. Apartments are up 10.5. Commercial is up 13.7. Small sample on industrial, but that's up 5.4. Overall, the entire city, the increase was 24.1%.
So we're seeing a 3 times percent increase of our values out here. Does that then translate to the amount of resources that come directly into our district? Do we get, or are those disproportionately spread to Hennepin County? So in other words, we're generating more money for more improvements out here through this tax increase, but does it stay here?
Yeah, that's a great question, one that we often get. So, I mean, zooming out a little bit, property taxes account for about 1/3 of Hennepin County's budget overall. And the way it sort of works out is, we're primarily, the primary function of Hennepin County government is human services. That's our single largest line items, where we get federal and state mandates passed down to us for programs that we are required to run. And those programs are not geography based. Those services follow the residents. So where there are residents who are eligible for programs and benefits, that's where those dollars go. There's certainly other areas of the budget that translate more directly into place-based investments. Public works is certainly one of those areas. And yes, I mean, where we have an opportunity to make place-based investments, in libraries, and roads and bridges, you can probably think of in our housing investments, for example. There's a concerted effort, youth sports grants, to make sure that there's an equitable distribution of those resources countywide. But if you're looking at it in aggregate, you know, where there's a higher concentration of residents living in poverty, there's probably a higher percentage of those program dollars going in that direction. So it's not, because we operate so many different types of programs. I mean, we're also the sheriff's budget, we're the courts, we're the county attorney's office, we're all those services that basically, in order for any of us to function in a system where we're allowed to have some protection from the law, or, you know, sue for protections, that's a system that's funded again through property tax dollars. I don't know how to sort of attach place-based.
This is not a public hearing, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, we can follow. You can follow directly.
Okay, thanks. I think there's just a growing concern that the expenses of Hennepin County are being disproportionately assessed to the suburbs. And so I think these assessments are somewhat of a reflection of that concern, so that's what I was asking.
Yeah, I appreciate the question.
I guess it's not a question, but I guess it's more of a statement just for you to consider. So we've heard a lot from our residents, specifically those that have been in their houses for a long time. and are not selling their houses, so going up $200,000 when you're not gonna sell your house doesn't really do a darn thing for them. And it's actually pricing a lot of them out of their houses. So when we talk about, you know, I think you said a third of their income going to housing, doing these massive value increases does absolutely nothing for the bulk of people. It actually hurts your citizens. And it's a fake number in many ways. So I would encourage you, when you are thinking about these levies, to, you say 3.5, I say 0, because most of these people, and I think of my dad, he's not selling his house. And his income hasn't changed. He's retired. He's stuck on whatever, you know, whatever he was yesterday. Now, he's fortunate, right? Because he's, you know, saved all his life, but it doesn't quite make sense to a lot of our residents. And this doesn't matter what, if you're in Minneapolis or Bloomington or wherever, that all these increases are hitting, especially when we know we potentially could be going into a recession. So I would just encourage you to be really scrupulous on that number, because I've heard from a lot of our residents, especially, I would say people who have no intention of moving, like, how does this help them? It would be my biggest pushback is, where you're actually hurting them more than anything. So that's just, so I guess not a question, just a very long-winded piece of feedback. So.
If I might, Mayor Walsh, just briefly, I mean, I think you really hit the nail on the head there, and that's what we're hearing from residents as well. Property taxes are actually pretty regressive. We sort of tax just sort of based on what an assessed value is. Particularly, one thing where there's sort of a double whammy on that is that both values have gone up. The state has not modified its homestead exclusion in how many years, John? It has never changed its homestead exclusion. What that means is, you know, if you've got a homesteaded property, your home, there's a certain percentage of that is taxed at a different rate. Well, if that number is, what is that? 314,000. So that hasn't changed as these increased values. And I think that's actually a really important area of advocacy for all our local government jurisdictions, as our residents are feeling this pressure to say, hey, let's see these property values go up. We've got to do something about this homestead value market exclusion to protect precisely the kind of people and the kind of residents that you're trying with your parents there.
Yeah, and then not to bring it back to my parents, but it's a pretty easy one, especially since, you know, when I was 2, he bought his house on the lake for $2,400. So now it's worth, what, 600? I mean, I know what the house looks like. I'd argue it's not worth 600, you know, thousand, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense, to be just completely honest. So, homestead or not, I think there's probably a few other levers we could pull too.
The limit on homestead is 414, I said.
Thank you.
All right, well, thanks. I appreciate you coming and bringing a Hawaiian shirt, being with the crew.
Thank you.
You bet.
And tomorrow, yeah, if you want to, I know I was planning on coming, but my son's having his birthday party tomorrow, so that's not going to work out.
It's actually Wednesday evening.
Oh, Wednesday, so Wednesday,
6 p.m.
yeah.
6 p.m. at the Shea Library.
Yep.
Thank you.
Right, if you want to give a gentleman your card, I think he had a question for you, so. Nope.
Nope.
Okay, next is our public hearing. Number 6, it's our annual public hearing for the MS4 stormwater permit. Ed, is that you? Okay.
That's me. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as part of our MS4 permit, every year we have to hold a public hearing and give a review of our efforts with the permit. So the goals of the meeting is to educate any interested citizens, receive any comments from the public on our stormwater pollution prevention program, and like I said before, meet the requirements of the permit. So our stormwater management rules and plans come from a variety of sources, starting at the federal level under the EPA and the National Pollution Discharge Elimination System, down through the state, the MPCA, in partnership with Minnehaha Creek Watershed District, and then at the very bottom of the slide there in blue are the various programs that we have to meet the conditions of our permit. bottom line, why do we have this? Why does the nation have this? It's to protect our water. And so, everything that ends up on the ground and then gets rained on, part of that gets into our water systems, as the graphic here displays. So, trying to protect those rivers, lakes, and other surface waters is what it's all about. So the basic requirements that the city has is we have to have a stormwater pollution prevention program, which we do. This year we will be going through a process to update that as our permit changed. Last year we had to apply for and get a new permit, so we're currently working with Portland with their water quality engineer to make the necessary updates, which we bring to the council here in the next couple months. We have to initiate best management practices and have measurable goals for those best management practices, which we do. We have to submit reports. We have to make sure that our ordinances are in compliance with the permit and the state regulations. And then the other thing we have to do is keep track of everything, and we do that with the stormwater mapping system. 6 minimum control measures per our permit are listed here. Public outreach, public participation. We have to have a illicit discharge detection process, construction site runoff, which is a big part of what we do, and then post-construction runoff as well. And then finally, just good housekeeping amongst our own municipal activities, such as storage of our salt and other commodities over public works is one example. In 2021, our compliance activities within the permit. First, we did several stormwater projects. Fairness Point, Park Street, and Pasco Point stormwater projects were all done in conjunction with last year's street projects, and in all of those we incorporated some best management practices, particularly looking at the removal of sediment for those various systems discharge into Lake Minnetonka. We did numerous erosion control inspections on both city projects as well as all those private projects. We do those inspections in conjunction with the Minnetonka Creek Watershed District. And we've been working with them on how we track those. Internally, we did 115 stormwater inspections, which is about on par from year to year. We divide the city into fifths, similar to what we do with our sewer program. And so we focus on 1/5 of the city each year to go and inspect all those stormwater assets. There are some that we inspect every year because they're critical or known areas of issue, but we try to touch everything once every 5 years as far as getting a good look at it. We did 10 structural repairs or replacements last year. We continued our grass and leaf disposal program, which we have over at Public Works. We met all the compliance requirements on publishing information either in our newsletters or website. One of the big changes in the new permit that we're updating in our program is there's a bunch of additional educational requirements that we have to do as getting information out there on particular subjects, things like pet feces, chlorides for private salting, snow removal companies, things like that. Also, a lot of people don't realize this, but our street sweeping activities are a big part of our stormwater protection program. And last year, we collected about 35 cubic yards of debris, which gave us about 17 pounds of phosphorus that was removed from the system. And that phosphorus is one of those things that we try to keep out of the water system. And every year, as required, as we make changes and do things on the system, we have to update our maps. I mentioned we're in a MS4 permit renewal timeframe. The permit was renewed last year, and we're in the period per the permit that we have to make all our changes. So we are working through those. I think I touched on most of these things. The biggest things, we have more education and we have increased reporting requirements going into this new permit. The two biggest things. And that's really it in a nutshell. If there are any questions or comments, I'd be happy to take them.
Questions for Adam? Since there's no question, I will open up the public hearing to receive any public input and comments regarding our SWPPP. You have something to say regarding this subject? That's what we're having public comment on, is this subject currently.
I have something to say about something you sent me. if that's what I have something to say
This is
about.
regarding our water permit. Do you have something to say about our water permit? If not, you have to wait till.
I have
public
waited
comment.
for 30 minutes.
Well, you're gonna have to wait till public comment if you have something to come up and talk about.
Okay. This has to do with the Holocaust
You're gonna have to sit down.
and the extermination. I'll quote from the video you sent me. The extermination of 6 million Jews. How? How? Does that happen? How?
Sit down. Stop making a fool
You
of
are a
yourself.
dangerous man.
Sit down.
I warned you. I warned you. I warned you. I would like to give this to the administrator or the attorney. These are the true videos that this mayor sent me in 2020 while we were struggling down there, front and center, in your town. In your town. If I may, let it be known, this man is a bigot. My grandparents immigrated from Holland in the 40s. Have you no shame? You bring disgrace
We're gonna take a 5-minute
and
recess.
dishonor to this city. They were persecuted under the Nazis, and you said that to me? I apologize. Shame on you! Shame on you! You need to do the right thing and leave and never come back.
Okay, is there anybody else in the public hearing who would actually like to talk about this item?
Was that going to be a 5-minute recess?
I have
No?
canceled the recess.
Okay, thank you. Yes, I would like to ask Mr. Edwards a question quickly.
Can you come up and state your name and record?
J. Nygaard, 1386 West Point Road, Orono, Minnesota. Mr. Edwards, I'm just curious if you have any plans to deal with the stormwater drain issue on West Point Road that causes water not only to go into my property at 1386, but 1380 and 1390. Is that anywhere in the stormwater or water plan to correct?
We will continue to maintain that system, yes. We
No,
don't have any projects on the agenda, or on the near future.
So you have no plan to fix the stormwater drainage that enters those 3 properties?
We have no plans to alter the drainage system on that road, no.
So I have to keep having city stormwater on my property?
If you have a particular item, this is regarding our permit process, not your
Yeah, city,
particular item.
no, this is city stormwater. It is a public hearing. I'm just trying to be clear. I mean, I brought this up a few years ago, and I'm just wondering when city stormwater is going to stop entering my property. I'm just asking if they have a plan, and it sounds like your answer is no. In perpetuity, you're gonna allow stormwater to enter my property.
If that's your opinion, certainly.
No, I've got films of it. I've sent you films of it happening. So your answer is you don't plan on changing and the stormwater's fine?
There are no plans to change. We did, as you might recall, assist you with understanding how stormwater was affecting your property and how you might fix that.
Oh, I might fix city stormwater entering my property?
I might fix.
No, how I
Required-
might fix it? How, it's my job to fix city stormwater entering my
How
property?
you might fix your own property.
How I have to fix my property to prevent city stormwater from entering?
You, like every other property owner in the country, has responsibility to maintain your own property and how.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you specifically, I've explained to you before and I've shown you the city stormwater's entering, not mine, but the 2 houses on the side. And I brought plans to you and you've not only done nothing, but I'm curious, are you gonna do anything, or is there any plan, or is it just, I'm on my own when it comes to city stormwater entering my property?
There are no current plans to alter the stormwater system on your road.
Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that.
Is there anybody else who'd like to talk about the stormwater permit process? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing. And we are zoning report number 7, which is LA 22-28. Peter Escucci, right? With this, Escucci? Escucci Design, 2605 North Shore Drive, variances resolution number 7272. Laura, is that yours?
It is.
All right.
Let me just get a survey picture for you. So in front of you tonight, the applicant's requesting variances to construct a new house. These variances include a building, hardcover, and retaining walls in the 75-foot lake yard, a side yard setback and lot area variance, as well as a wetland setback and a 75-foot lake yard setback for proposed entrance monuments. The property has an inlet for Lake Minnetonka that encroaches into the lot, establishing not just the 75-foot setback on the lake shore, but around the entire inlet. I've identified that 75-foot setback in yellow on the survey in front of you. They're proposing to build a new home and replace the existing structure. This existing home sits forward of the 75-foot setback, around 18 feet from the Lake Minnetonka shore. The variance application was approved for a new house on the site in 2019. That variance has since expired. The applicant designed a home to improve the current setbacks in a similar setting as the 2019 proposal. And the applicant's proposing this new home further back from the lake shore. There's also some new footprint and expansions of building and hardcover in the 75. They are also proposing to remove quite a bit of hardcover on the property that's currently encroaching. And then to minimize the inlet 75-foot setback encroachment, the applicant is proposing to move that house closer to the east property line. Additionally, the applicant depicts a new location of entrance monuments. The property currently has entrance monuments which could be maintained. The new entrance monuments in any new location would require to be in conformance with city code. The applicant suggesting a 5-foot setback from the edge of the wetland where 25 is required, and it's within the 75-foot setback from that inlet. The applicant states that the inlet is the practical difficulty and the existing conditions of the site for variances, and notes that they are improving many of the nonconformities, and again, they're reducing the overall hardcover on the property. Staff finds that the wetland buffer and lakeshore setback variance to allow for new entrance monuments is a convenience and not necessary for the property, and does not support that requested variance. On June 21st, the Planning Commission held a public hearing and commissioners discussed those proposed variances and the benefit that this proposed project would have to the existing nonconformities. The commission discussed the proposed entrance monuments and provided feedback, but noted that the proposed placements of those monuments did not meet the standards. No comments were made during public hearing, and the commission voted 6-1 following staff's recommendation. Staff recommends approval of the variances associated for the new house construction and denial of the variances associated with the entrance monuments. Council is asked to approve the draft resolution following the Planning Commission and staff's recommendation. I'd be happy to take any questions. I also have quite a few different images I could show you and talk, and then the applicants here if you have further questions as well.
The only question. The only question I had is there is an existing gate at this property, correct?
Yep, up here in the red.
Okay, so they're asking for those monuments on there, are those what's shown in green there?
Yep, the blue-green color is the new proposed.
And then, is that an existing gate going away?
I'm not sure what the applicant might decide to do. They can maintain what they have, so the existing monuments and the existing gate can be maintained. But if they propose new entrance monuments, I believe they are asking for gates as well on those new entrance monuments. And that's the one, those are the variances staff is not recommending.
That's a question I have for the applicant then, are we? Because by the looks of it, it's a much bigger structure. If they're getting rid of that and putting it slightly farther away from the road and smaller, then that's what I wanted to figure out what they would be with their illustration.
There was a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Because we remember we approved this before, and we went through a lot to kind of get to where it was, and it sounds like, and tell me if I'm wrong, at all, what kind of the variances up where they're building the house and where the pond is, they're kind of making those better? Is there something that's worse? Because
For that fund?
is there something that's making a worse encroachment, or is it actually making it better from the original variance proposal that was approved?
The overall house is making many proposals that would bring the new proposed house closer to conformance than the existing house, as well as the 2019 approval. This new house has setbacks that are closer to conformance than that 2019 approval. So this house footprint is bettering.
That's
those
kind of what I
setbacks.
thought. And then to Matt's point, that the red is the ones that are getting away. And we understand the
But
new,
just it was related, it was just labeled as existing, so,
the red.
yeah, so it wasn't.
So the big red ones with the gate, those will disappear, and like I said, because obviously if you look at this on the face of it, it looks like the green ones, and the blue ones, whatever color you think they are gonna be a whole bunch smaller and farther away from the road.
Exactly. If that was the case, that seemed reasonable to me.
Like, you're making a bad situation better.
Yes.
From the setback standpoint, even though it's still, you wouldn't approve it off the top of your head, but it's, you have just like the house, if you have an existing house that's way up, you're moving it back and it's still a problem, it's still better than what we have today. Is that any other questions? All right, Aaron, you're seated? All right. Councilman Printup has joined.
Convenient.
Rick, any questions, or Aaron?
No, I'm gonna follow out agenda item number 7, just for coming to this one.
Okay. So if the applicant is here, if they'd like to come up and maybe answer the questions on the monument and the fence, if they're here. And if you can state your name and record for the address.
Peter S. Cookie, 12318.
How did you say your last name? Because that's not how we pronounced it.
Nobody does, S. Cookie.
As Cookie, okay.
You got it.
In Deep Haven. So, yeah, you're correct. The red is to be removed and the green is proposed. And I think part of it is, safety for the family when it's out of town. But part of it is the amount of distance with that descent from the highway is really tight for, trucks, things like that.
It is really tight.
Yeah, and they have to kind of back into both lanes of the road to get out. So it was more that it's a lot safer situation, we felt. So that's what.
How much more room is that? And how much is it more?
5 to 5 feet, I think.
I think currently they're about 35 or 37 feet back from the blacktop, and the proposal would be closer to 40.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they're currently not conforming.
Correct, 40 is, if it's gated, 40 is the required setback for new.
Any other questions?
I think that's
All right, thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve LA 22-28, as written,
As written, with the exception of
that approving the variance of the new gate is noting that the other monuments must be removed. You want anything else?
No, I understand.
Okay, is Councilmember Johnson, do a second?
I second.
Second, and all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Well, that passes 3-0 with 1 abstention. Councilmember, I came in late. Okay, so number 8, which is LA 22-17, John Ressler and Frank Wachecki. Did I say that right, too? 3683 North Shore Drive and 3685 North Shore Drive, lot width variance for both properties. Is that you again, Laura?
It is.
All right, you get it all tonight.
I do, very busy. Okay, so in front of you tonight is a lot variant, or a lot width variance request. Neighboring property owners at 3683 and 3685 North Shore Drive are looking to complete an administrative boundary line adjustment. Moving the property boundary is a staff administrative action, as long as no new nonconformities are created or an existing nonconformity is not increased. The request to move this property boundary increases the nonconformity of lot width, and so a variance is required before that administrative staff action can be completed. Each property will require lot width variances in order to allow the boundary line adjustment. The lot width in this properties are measured in 2 places, one at the 75-foot setback and one at the OHW, or the ordinary high water of the lake. The properties in this district require a 100-foot lot width in both of those locations. Both of these lakefront properties are non-conforming to width due to the angle of the proposed lot line. The lot width will decrease at the 75 lake yard setback from 54 feet to 52 feet for property at 3683 North Shore Drive. That is the northern property here, so I've identified it in red that that's decreasing. And then at 3685, the lot width will decrease from 92 feet to 82 feet at the ordinary high water. The new property boundary will maintain the same lot areas overall. So the proposed new property line will improve many nonconformities on both of the parcels. Building setback, overall hardcover, and lot width at the ordinary high water will improve for 3683. And the new property line will be moved off of the existing driveway, bringing that driveway setback closer to conformance for 3685. On May 16th, Plan Commission held a public hearing. The commission reviewed this application and discussed support for the application and noted the improvements for hardcover of the improvements to the hardcover calculations and building setbacks were important improvements to the site. No comments were made during the public hearing, and the commission voted 7-0 to approve the proposed lot width variances for both properties. The applicant has primarily identified the existing conditions and the improvement on many nonconformities to the city code for each property as the practical difficulties supporting this request. Staff finds the lot width variance may be supported by practical difficulty. So council is asked to discuss and provide direction for staff to draft a resolution for this item. I can go over the plan a little bit more. I have it kind of color coded, but I know it's kind of small as well. So I'd be happy to take questions. Otherwise, I believe the applicant's here as well.
Any questions for Laura? John, you wanna come up and tell us what you got going on here?
I didn't get the memo about the Hawaiian shirt, so excuse me. Mr. Mayor, council members, staff, thanks for having me. Pretty straightforward. Consultant's done a pretty nice job of illustrating what we're trying to do. It's a weird lot design that goes back to when it was platted, obviously. I'm the third generation to live there. My father, Mr. Luchecki, agreed to change when that house was rebuilt in the 90s to allow him to have a little more parking and for the driveway, the yard to be a little more aligned with the home. So for decades, it's been the way it is, but procrastination has not allowed it to be correct. And so if that home were to ever be sold, it would be a problem because my property line goes over his driveway. It's not how it's being used, and this is more practical use for the lot. So I don't know if I have anything more to add, but that's kind of the summary. I'm available for questions if there are any.
His driveway, as I was just trying to kind of see where this is. You're the number 6 and 7 house, right? You're 3585 or 36?
Circle 5, yeah.
5.
Well, you're 5, okay. So where is his driveway?
So currently, the black bolded line is the existing property line, and it crosses over his driveway, which is kind of depicted over here. The yellow is the proposed new property line that the applicant's looking to achieve with their.
Okay, so because I know I just couldn't see I just couldn't see the parking lot. I'm like, I don't see it.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I wasn't missing something because I don't see where the driveway is, so.
Yeah, and it crosses right over here, kind
Okay.
of where I got the 2.5.
Oh,
number.
okay, I see what you're saying, okay.
So just to clarify, what in the green is illustrated is right now it's encroaching and it's turning into a 2.5 foot setback from there, and we're increasing the setback of, my property, the 3683, from 3.2 from structure to lot line to 6.2.
There's a whole bunch of gains and losses, basically, it's just swapping stuff, but nothing that I can see that is creating any new practical difficulties that I'm seeing there, because you already have non-conforming you've got non-conforming lake yard, you've got non-conforming, width. You're just losing some on one side, well, you're obviously gaining stuff on the lake. They're giving up stuff on the lake, right? Yeah. So they're giving up, you're gaining, and on the other side, you're giving up and he's gaining, but it's getting off of his driveway.
Yeah, it's an even swap, so there's no gain of total acreage, if you want to call it that. It's an even swap of land, it's just.
Yeah, and I'm not even concerned about the swap of land, it's just more just trying to understand, obviously you have an encroachment on his property, or on his driveway.
Or he's got an
He's
encroachment.
got-
Or he's got an encroachment, right?
Correct, the latter.
And obviously he's saying he needs that driveway.
Correct.
Okay.
So did I hear you right, that in about the 90s, it shifted from what you're proposing to what's there now, and you want to put it back pretty close to it?
No, the property line's been there since my grandfather lived there, whenever it was platted, Crystal Bay Estates, and that was the private road was the county road way back in the day. That it became abandoned and awarded to the homeowners, and the lot lines were drawn in a crooked method. I don't know where they came up with that for reasoning, but the chain link fence has been there probably 40 years. The actual driveway went in the 90s. So, yeah, again, it was, the property line hasn't changed forever. We're trying to correct it from how it's been used.
The chain link fence only goes up, what, halfway? Does that just go up kind of
Yeah.
in the middle of your house, basically?
Yeah,
Just trying
there's-
to look at all of how small this is.
Yeah, correct. I think it goes
The
to,
red arrow is right there, kind of ends right there.
yeah, and then arborvitae, really tall arborvitae kind of go there to divide the two driveways.
Well, thankfully, the driveway issue hasn't been a problem for a long, long time. A meeting amongst neighbors. Haven't seen any problems.
Oh, right. Yeah, and if you get encroachment on somebody's property, it's always a potential problem over the years, for sure. So obviously, moving the line would solve that. It doesn't, it's not like we're taking something that's in conformity and making it not in conformity. We're just making a bad situation better. The lake's getting better for one, a little worse for one, but not creating any new practical difficulties any harder. It's just showing up a line, which is the same issue in the front. We're actually helping an encroachment, not creating any new problems. Any thoughts? I don't have any questions. Thoughts on you guys? You want to make a motion?
We're looking actually for direction on how the council wants to go, and so the motion would be to draft a resolution.
Or we can make it so this is an administrative adjustment.
They're asking for a variance, so we're asking for direction on how to draft that resolution, whether it's an approval of the variance or denial of that variance for lot width. So we're looking for direction from you guys, and then you'll see that resolution at your next meeting.
Okay. Okay.
You can still make a motion to direct staff.
Okay. Yes.
What was that?
Is there any other public comment? I think we already had public hearing.
Yes, I would like to. Thank you for asking so much. Jay Nygaard, 1386 West Point Road once again. And I was before you guys somewhat recently asking for a minor property adjustment, and you found one little minor technicality in order to deny me. And if you're gonna be consistent, and I'm sorry if that this might affect you, but if you're gonna be consistent, I don't see how you could possibly have denied us our property line adjustment, and you're gonna allow it for this gentleman, unless you're gonna go back and revisit what happened with us before. But one minor thing, we were making everything better on both properties, we were decreasing hardcover, we were removing illegal structures, we were doing all kinds of things to make it better, just like you said tonight, Mr. Walsh. Just like you were pontificating on, And all of a sudden, I see a very similar application here, and I'm wondering why you're all working so hard to do it. So, in my opinion, as someone who was before you on a very similar subject, you have nothing you can do other than to deny this because something's getting worse, which is exactly what happened with us. Because with us, nothing was getting worse. Everything was getting better. Thank you for your time.
Is there any other public comment? And seeing no, close public comment. And I guess my thought would be on that is when we did do the other non-approval or approval, however you want to look at it, we were creating a very tough practical difficulty. And I know you.
That's not true at all. That's not true at all.
Comment is over.
Yeah, comment is over, but don't lie.
Public comment is
Don't
over.
lie. Don't lie to the people. Don't lie to the people.
Comment is over. You've had
Don't
your
lie
chance
to the people. You're the one who said you're gonna interrupt me. If I'm lying, I'm interrupting you.
Comment is over. Stop making a fool of yourself in the middle of the audience.
Camera's on you, buddy.
Anybody like to make a motion or a direction?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the variance on LA 22-17. No, I'll direct staff
To draft a resolution.
draft a resolution for that on LA 22-17. Second.
Mr. Brendan, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Note that passes 4-0. Okay, we are on to number 9, which is the Navarre parking lot, project 21-40. You, Adam?
Yep, we're kind of doing a handoff on this one. So the Community Development Department over the last couple of years has been working, doing some community engagement processes as well as feasibility study for the Navarre parking lot and what we might do there. So the action item before you this evening is approval of design for the actual construction of that same parking lot. But I wanted to bring this onto the regular agenda just to make the council aware. When we first started looking at doing something in the Navarre parking lot, we were looking at using the Community Investment Fund to fund it. Back then, it was a very simple project, just milling and overlaying and then restriping the parking lot. Since we've gone through this engagement process and feasibility study and had a bunch of additional ideas and concepts that want to be worked into this design, as well as our current economic situation with construction prices going up. There's insufficient funds in the Community Investment Fund as it stands right now to pay for this project as an entirety if it is approved as we think the current engineer's estimate would have.
Because we have expanded the project and done more on the project than we thought we were going to. But we do have funds, PIR funds, which you do have for one-time projects to help them out, which we do have plenty of funds in there to kind of help get this project done and accomplished. Typically, you like to have those funds replaced over time, but if we think that we don't need to replace those because we still have adequate funds in there or funding from other sources that we have coming in from our budget discussions, we don't have to do that. We don't have to make this decision until
the fall.
Till the fall. But I just want to make
come back with a
aware of the process that we're going through if we want to make sure that we want to continue to move it forward with all the stuff that we have been doing in Navarre. But we do have funds that we do have set aside for these situations if they do come up to get these projects started and taken care of.
That's correct. And so, subject to any questions you might have on it.
So, if there's anybody here from the public from Navarre that's interested, that has any questions, who wants to come up and talk about it or hear more about it, or if you've read everything and it all makes sense, that's fine too. No public comment? Okay, we'll close public comment. So I think we're just really just looking for direction.
Direct this.
I'm looking for approval. Yes, two things. One, to direct the city to continue with the design, but also approval of the proposal for Bolton make on the
To get all the design and engineering.
design engineering. Yes.
So make a motion to direct the city engineer to move forward with engineering and design for the Navarre parking lot and accept the Bolton Link's proposal for design.
Councilmember Johnson and Councilmember Phillips second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, note that passes 4-0. Okay, we are in public comment section, so if you'd like to come up and talk about something that's just something in general, you have 3 minutes. City Administrator, put 3 minutes on the clock for you. And come up and state your name and address for the record if you'd like to come up.
3 minutes.
Are we gonna talk about the fire department, or is this a chance?
This is just public comments.
Like, is the fire department,
No, no, that's a closed session.
so we leave when we talk about it?
Yes.
So if you guys have anything to say, now or never?
Yep.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the council members who wanted to meet with me. And I chose not to meet with you because that's in contradictory to my comments at the last meeting, which is you guys are a group of 5, and it's counterproductive to talk to you individually because it means nothing. And you can't talk to each other theoretically, and therefore it's a waste of time. I still want to talk to you. First of all, Mr. Mayor, it's painfully obvious changing the public comment to the bottom is not happening. By now, we all could have left. People would have their business attended to. Wherever you go, Mr. Mayor, a lot of controversy surround you. It's embarrassing to me to be called former Mayor Orono as you go out the bar so far down. You can laugh, it's my turn.
I am laughing.
Please, you're the one who hid behind the newspaper tonight. I would say, be a man, take it in the face, deal with it, as unpleasant as it was for all of us, and we'll be behind us someday. But I don't think it's going to be behind you. It's equally as embarrassing that you walk barefoot to City Hall because you're running away from what's coming at you. But meanwhile, I want to double back and go to the fire department issue. When I was involved with the city, one of the most distasteful things was to me and my daughter is we get accused that we are up to no good the wrong way. Matter of fact, I sat next to Timon, former Mayor Altman, in the back as the city wanted to try to stick it the wrong way, and I offered to pay all their legal fees. I think you were sitting next to me. You were there, and that's what brought me to fame. Remember about low-income housing next to the fire station? And Mr. Crosby would like to know, it was 2017 when we had our meeting here with 2 of you. I looked it up and I'm sorry I couldn't remember. But the most important part is your behavior to the sisters to their wrong way. This was problem. And I really believe, just like the Emperor of Rome, and we don't like to go that far back, you're burning our city down. You are absolutely taking us into the sewers. And if you think this is going to go away, I don't think it's going to go away. When they used to think that we're not trustworthy, I used to take offense of it. You proved more that we are.
Yell too, your time is done. Sit down. You approve, you want to just say nasty things, sit down. You're done. You've had your time. Okay? Yes, that's what, if you're going to continue to talk, that's what I will do. You got 3 minutes, you had your 3 minutes, now have a seat. Are you going to be that rude? You're going to be that rude?
No.
Now sit down, don't embarrass yourself even more.
Sorry. Boy, one person embarrassing themselves tonight.
What a disgusting. You are talking.
Oh, God,
You
yeah.
guys, we're all here. Let's just, let's be
Tim Holtman.
What? He's
What?
not. He's not.
Former mayor, former councilman, former planning commission, you heard this 2 weeks ago. Unfortunately, you weren't here to hear it, but you are probably not a good representative for the city of Orono. The word, I guess, keeps, I can't say the bad words I'd like to say because that's not what you want, and that's why you're doing it in 3 minutes. But for example, tonight in Orono, or Long Lake, normally the people get to come and speak right after the agendas. but you guys to defer as much deflection as possible, you put other people up tonight, and then you run out, and that's probably the most cowardly thing I've ever seen in my life as a person representing the city. I mean, cowardly to run out. It's just, feel sorry for you, sir.
I feel sorry for you having to sit up there and
Yeah,
come up with
and you
yes
know
to
what,
talk about it.
I hope that the people of Orono are smart enough to not re-elect you. Thank you.
Anybody else have a public comment today? Any more clowns that would like to come?
Clowns? Clowns.
Hello. I am Barbara Schmidt from 50 Landmark Drive. I will not be able to take any questions or comments because of the pending mayor lawsuit 27 CB 217769, in case anyone would like to look that up. Sadly, City of Orono employees were sent to Beaterwood Park Big Woods to blow off topsoil and cut down hundreds of seedling trees and native plants on June 23rd, 2022. When asked to stop, they said no. Why? Because the City of Orono is not listening to 95% of the citizens who do not want their parks developed for niche activities. Instead of the city installing an unsafe public mountain bike course that one of the Orono West Tonka team coaches said would be up to the parents to monitor in a 6/7/21 Park Commission work session. I'd like to read a statement that came in from Lee Freilich, who is the director from the University of Minnesota Center for Forest Ecology. He's the foremost expert on big woods, and he has documented that Beaterwood is big woods. Regarding your question about blowing leaves and cutting native plants, both are damaging by exposing the soil to erosion over a longer part of the growing season. The leaf litter would normally take until July to be eaten by earthworms, so if they were removed earlier, it would lengthen the time during which the soil is exposed. The plants will have a major setback from being cut, exhausting their energy supply in the root system to grow foliage, which is harder to do after the canopy is leafed out and there's little light available. If they are cut repeatedly, they could die, further exposing the soil, both due to lack of above ground leaves, intercepting rainfall, and reducing the speed with which it hits the soil. And of course, the lack of roots holding soil in place. There are other issues reducing native plant cover, such as disrupting the plant pollinator network and reducing habitat quality for nesting birds and other wildlife species. Thank you.
Is there anybody else for public comment? You seeing none?
No, I'm getting up, thank you.
Jane Nygaard, 1386 West Point Road, Orono, Minnesota.
That all we got?
You guys gonna sit there and let them do it?
Josh, you got it now?
Kendall Nygaard, 1386 West Point Road, 5658 Judith Road, Otillia, Florida. My husband's a veteran, and Aaron, I thank you because you've recognized veterans, and he gave his life, potentially, to be able to stand up here and be in silent protest to you, Mr. Weasel Walsh, who everybody thinks is a weasel, and you call us clowns for being up here. You just called my husband a clown, you called me a clown, called Ms. Peterson a clown, called Gabriel Jabor a clown, you called Brad Erickson a clown. Really, who's the clown? I see number 10 coming up here, and I better get a hell of a lot more than 3 minutes to talk about your emergency slope failure. Because I gotta tell you folks, when you all come to vote on that one, and I have so many quotes of how you've all taken it upon yourself to get elected and say all the right words about how you don't have special interests, unless your name is Lisa Walsh. Okay, let's just call it what it is. Because number 10 is a barn burner. If you want to look at a clown who's coming up to be scrutinized, I can't wait for the clown car to pull up and you to get in it, buddy. I'm done.
Anybody else for public comment tonight? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. We'll go to our finance report. Ron?
I gave you my report earlier at the work session, so I'm done.
And then we have number 10, which is the community development report, which is 1354 West Point Circle, Dennis Walsh, which is mine, so I'm going to be recusing myself from this item. And
Mayor Walsh, if I may, because of the conflict of interest, you'll be disqualified from participating or from voting, and you'll also have to pass the gavel off
yes,
to.
I'll pass it out to my Mayor Pro Tem, Aaron up here, and I think Adam.
Yeah, I can introduce this item. So there is a resolution tonight in front of you, Resolution 7273, for adopting or amending the emergency repair of a lake slope. A variance application was submitted on June 22nd to repair a retaining wall at 1354 West Point Circle. The repair of the wall indicates a footprint expansion to support the slope of the lake yard, leaving the existing walls in place. Soil engineers provide documentation showing that the slope failure is imminent and in need of emergency repair. Per the city code 1726, slope failures have a direct impact on the health and welfare of Orono residents, and a timely response to such events is important for the protection of the natural resources. Emergency repair shall be defined for the purposes of the article as activities necessary to stabilize a failing slope or prevent the imminent failure of the slope, in the opinion of the city engineer. A recommended correction of the slope failure is to construct those new walls in front of the existing walls. A building permit and a variance is required to allow the new footprint expansion of the retaining walls within the lake yard. And our city engineer has reviewed the letter and additional information and can provide a comment on that analysis. And then council is asked to act on that resolution to allow the contractor to proceed with the emergency slope failure once obtaining a building permit.
All right, any questions from council? Matt? Is this a public hearing?
I don't believe this is a public hearing. This action does require a variance, which the variance process will be going through this cycle, and a public hearing will be required at that.
After the fact.
That would be at planning commission?
Yep, planning.
After the fact. This is a permanent repair to what's going on. That's what their documents say. If you're gonna have a public hearing about this, it needs to be now. After the fact is ridiculous.
So what do we need to do up here? You want direction to staff?
The builder is here too.
Yep, so if you have comments for the applicant or the builder or an analysis done by the city engineer, we're available, but there's a resolution in front of you tonight to approve an emergency slope repair.
The slope isn't.
And then it would go to planning commission.
Yep, for an after
Even
the
though
fact.
it's after the fact because it's an emergency, okay.
Yep.
I get it.
except the slope's not getting repaired.
Does anybody on the council wish to hear from the builder? I think it's pretty straightforward.
Anyone that wants to be heard, can be heard.
Thank you.
Let's hear from the builder, if there's someone.
Thank you.
Wants to make a comment about it, go ahead.
Builder, why don't you come on up and just talk about what you saw?
Yeah, Dave Durkin. How are you? We're good. Good. So
If
questions about,
you want to give your name and address and then just talk about it.
Operations Unlimited, doing the construction on the retaining wall. So it's a process of putting timbers in front of it. It's putting man-array earth anchors into the ground, 20 feet. It's all engineered. There's an engineered plan, which you can see right there. So it's basically you're building right in front of, I mean, the wall is failing right now, and, you know, when we get a heavy rain or anything like that, it's imminent that it's gonna fail, there's no question about that. So you put in earth anchors, you drill holes in the existing wall, and pound those in 20 feet. Okay, that's on the lower wall. Then there's another wall above that, and those anchors actually go in 15 feet. So the application of doing this is obviously you can't get, you know, a barge in there or a backhoe or anything like that to do this. You keep everything the way that it is, you erect in front of the wall so there's no disruption of any of the earth around it, okay? So then you basically just build, like I say, right in front of that existing wall, and you have a new wall in front of that.
So does it work like, kind of like if you're screwing in a screw and it sucks it back towards?
So
does
I
that
would
work?
say kind of easy, common sense, it's kind of almost like in a sheetrock. So you put in like, put it in and then it actually, it's a duct build that builds out. And then what I have is I have a jack that I jack it up and I have to hit a certain PSI on the anchor calibrated to the feet that it is. So the 20-foot anchors, I believe, are at like 3,000 PSI. I mean, you know, it's kind of an engineered mumble jumble type of thing, but you know, that's exactly what holds the whole wall in place.
Okay, so the old wall will stay there
The
though?
whole wall will stay there,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, I might take off a layer or two on the top. It's kind of an on-site type of evaluation. You know, once I get to a certain level, you know, I might just take those off. It's a cosmetic type of thing because there's no need to, like I say, disrupt any of the soil behind it because all you're doing is you're making a catastrophic situation worse by taking that wall out.
Okay.
So there's other projects that have done the same application on it, so.
And so you're replacing a new wall in front of the existing walls, you're not creating any new walls.
Well, I'm putting a new wall in front of the existing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, far enough, so here's your wall like this, so I have to, you know, basically plumb block down to see where that's going to be. And then that cavity is just filled with granular fill between those two walls, the new wall and the existing wall. So, you know, approximately, you know, one to 2 feet possibly, just depending upon, because I've taken into consideration where, you know, my first one is anchored at, and then going up above, you know, where my ultimate top level is. So.
And this was your report?
That's from Ron Vickery, the engineer that I worked with, so that was all him. I'm just here as a contractor doing the work.
Thank you.
And any other questions? That's it?
Can the public ask you questions?
You know what, I'm okay with it too, but no name calling, keep it to like 30 seconds.
What,
ask a
I've been
question.
called a clown tonight?
You know.
Yeah, no kidding, that is a two-way street.
You got a question for me? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Not from you, from him.
Yeah, I would like to ask you a question.
Sure.
Is the clear cutting of the bluff that happened 2 years ago and the city of Mound was consulted on that, could that cause erosion and cause this imminent failure?
I don't even know how to comment that on without even seeing the site.
So wouldn't trees and the roots keep soil intact and not, because that bluff was clear cutted 2 years ago. And if I'm not mistaken, if you look at the engineering report, what date was this engineering report published?
As far as the one that I just did right now, this was probably, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago. The
Okay,
engineer looked
well,
at
the
it.
ones that were submitted as part of the public comments show that this was done 9 months ago. So if it's imminent failure and people are walking down to boats and using their docks, Aren't we concerned? Shouldn't there be crime scene tape up and things like that?
Mrs. Nygaard, maybe you could address that to the council, I mean, he's not on trial here.
No, I'm just asking him if he's.
I'm just a contractor.
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm just here to, fix a bad situation, I guess, so it's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good questions, good,
Hopefully I explained it well.
that was good, yeah, you're all right, sorry to put you in the.
I'm okay with whatever, I mean, we want to spitball some more, I mean, I don't.
Yeah, no, it is whatever it is. All right, you know
My
what?
feelings.
Yeah, I'll take it up to council.
Well,
There's more public comment.
there's more people want to
You know
comment, I
what?
believe.
I kind of get the gist of what's going on
No,
here.
well, you might get the gist, but I just want to give you actual wording of two different documents from the city, if that's okay?
If you can do it in like 30 seconds.
Well, that might take me a minute, so I have to go between them. Anyways, this gentleman's document he prepared said, first of all, that last fall was when he inspected this. So it has been months and months, and if it really was this imminent thing, you'd think that it would have been dealt with over the winter. Okay, and that's not happening. Secondly, like my wife said, I drove by there's no tape, there's nothing. People are going up and down, and there's two different families using that dock because the guy behind him has a boat there too. So if this is really such a dangerous and imminent thing, it doesn't make sense. Another issue I have, and Ms. Oakton here said that this will be a real test of the ordinance. What do you mean test of an ordinance? The ordinance is for failing slopes for temporary emergency repairs until a plan can be installed. Okay, that's not what this is. This is for a permanent repair without a public hearing. There's no emergency. There never was. This could have been dealt with over the winter and been dealt with in the spring and been dealt with in time. And it's not. This emergency game going on, to me, certainly appears to be an avoidance of actually having a public hearing that could affect the project. Now, if I could just go up to Ms. Oakton's comments here real quick. Yeah, like I said, to me, this is the first time this code section's been used. Don't misapply this code section. This code section's for emergency temporary repairs until a permanent repair is in. There's no danger. They're using the damn stairs. And I'm sorry, I don't believe you when you say you barge can't get there.
Talk up here, you know not to talk.
No, he said that a barge can't get up there. A barge can get right to the shoreline, they can have a pile driver, they can repair it the right way. And lastly, yeah, actually, they can, I live there. And lastly, counties remove the retaining wall to restore the natural slope. There's more solutions here than just making things worse, avoiding public hearings and trying to hide the mayor.
So normally we let the applicant speak, so.
Danny Walsh, 1354 West Point Circle. Well, yes, to answer those questions, we are concerned every time we walk down. Because,
But you still walk down.
I'm talking.
You still walk down.
Every time we do walk down, because there's our only way down to get to the lake. If you read the letter in there, if the slope goes, the stairs go, everything goes into the lake. And yes, I worry about it every time we go down, but we have things that are down there, are we taking the chance to go down there? Yes, we are completely, all it takes is one rain, because the whole wall is blowing out and has completely deteriorated.
Then why didn't you
All it
fix
takes is
it
one rain.
last winter?
And the issue is, the temporary fix just happens to be the permanent fix. There is no temporary fix for the wall falling down. You can't take the wall down because the whole slope will come down too, so you can't get rid of it. So you have to add, so all I'm doing is actually losing deck space, because it's a whole walking deck there that's been existing since I bought the house, so we're actually just losing deck space.
No, you're not.
But we have to put a wall in front of the old wall to make it happen. So everything, the prior gentleman came up and said, is not true. It is a problem, it needs to get fixed right now before something happens, and you don't want something to happen, that's why we put this ordinance in effect. Probably a couple of years ago, I think, when we had somebody who had a problem on a Casco that we couldn't get solved right away, and we said, we need to solve this because this needs to get better when you have slope problems, so, thanks.
Slope and the structure are two different things.
Is there anything else from the council? Nothing? Yeah, okay. Do, any questions, comments, otherwise I'll.
No, I'll just make a couple comments here, just to clarify. Is, we've got engineer's report saying it's a failing. I don't know what anyone would have us do other than this is the first time it's gone through for the reason that there was a failure before, and it took somebody multiple weeks to get it fixed. And we wanted to come back with a process. And I think the question that was raised by staff was, hey, what happens when you, amongst this whole process, if you add additional hardcover, because Orono counts the tops of retaining walls as hardcover. So they're doing a like timing. They're going timber wall to timber wall. They're not changing the type. And this was in place to expedite, so we don't have this all going in the lake. And the engineering report is enough for me to.
He knew last fall this was an issue.
I did read that. I saw it.
Last fall. What's the emergency?
Now what's in front of us is an engineering report saying we got a failure, it qualifies for the emergency status that we did. The history is not relevant at this point in front of us.
Of course it's relevant.
What it is we have this failure, so I just want to bring some clarity to that. I'll make a motion. What do we need here?
A motion to approve the attached resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the attached resolution.
I second.
And that's resolution 7273.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay. That is, passes 3-0.
That's what corruption looks like. Right there. The ugly face of corruption.
City attorney.
I have nothing.
And
Of course she doesn't.
to our city administrator and engineer.
I have nothing for the third.
Okay, well, we've
That
never.
brings us to
Mayor Council report. Councilmember Seals.
I have nothing at this point.
Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Pinto.
I walked in and a lot of people look kind of wore out, and I understand why. I sympathize with everybody, and everybody you love.
Well, it's summertime. I will say I got the letter for Corn Days coming up, so I know that that's coming up. Fourth of July fireworks coming up, so everybody be safe for that as well, because we won't be meeting until after that. Enjoy the weather. Make sure you hydrate, because there's a lot of heat going on out there, and I think that's all I've got right now. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make a motion to close the meeting to go into closed session.
Put that recess before.
Okay, well, then we'll take a 5-minute recess.
Okay.
Do I have a second for that?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Sorry.
I didn't hear you at first.
Do you know how to reset the thing so it's like?
It's from the thing, state statute that. To make sure that the city